Hey, welcome to the Vetted Podcast. I'm Stephen Hermann.
Kale Flaspohler.
Kale, introduce our special guest today.
Yeah, so today we are super excited to have Dr. Carlee Tucker from Winfield, Kansas, to tell us about her almost 1 year in ownership now. I think we're about 2 weeks away from that. Is that right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So
I kind of forgot. Insane. Yeah.
So do you have anything planned for your one year anniversary?
No. But I will now.
You have to celebrate those small wins. You got to do something. So
Absolutely.
anyway, no, it's great to have you. We're excited about it. I loved getting to know you last spring and help you through the transition, and I'm excited to share what your story is and the story of your clinic. And so, why don't you, just to start out, why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
If I can, real quick, what is the actual date of the anniversary?
Well, I think it's July 1st because I think we closed on the 30th of June. Yeah. So
this is going to come out. This is coming out July 3rd.
This is coming out July 3rd.
Yeah, it's coming out. This episode comes out July 3rd. So that's really cool. So that
is cool.
Hey,
like
happy
the first
anniversary.
Year.
We can say that because people that gets like, hey, how was your first anniversary? So you can like fill it in like how I think it should be. No, not just kidding. But no, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. All right, Kale, back to
sorry. So
he's got an agenda.
I try. So no, back into that. Just to kick it off, why don't you share just a little bit about you and yourself and your family and I guess how you got into veterinary medicine in the first place.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Carlee Tucker. I'm from like South Central Kansas, like a semi-rural area. My husband's from a much tinier town, so he thinks where I live is big, but it's not. It's like 12,000 people. And I wanted to be a vet my entire life since I was a little girl. Like my mom's a science teacher, so I always loved science and was very drawn to science and mathematics and that kind of thing. But I loved animals. And so that was always my passion, always what I wanted to do. I didn't exactly know what kind of vet I wanted to be. That changed a lot as I grew up and throughout college and into veterinary school. And then once I got older, I think I very much gravitated towards practice ownership. But yeah, I always knew I wanted to be a vet.
Yeah, certainly. And it seems like you work on all kinds of different animals too, not just large animal, your standard cattle, horses. I saw, was it a llama? Too?
Yeah. So we'll do a little bit of everything. So like I can spay and neuter bunnies. I see like llamas and alpacas, goats, just the occasional little exotic thing. I don't do a lot of exotics, but pretty much just standard general mixed animal practice. The barnyard mix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you like bunnies, right?
No, I don't. I don't like bunnies at all.
You know about his bunny? You know about his bunny?
No,
you don't need to put it on the air. That's a part of my life that can just stay away. It's fine.
I will have to ask later, if not today.
I've got bunnies in my front yard. Should we spay and neuter those things because they're eating all my plants?
No. So
you couldn't keep up.
You always knew you wanted to be a veterinarian, and so. Yeah. Share a little bit. Did you want to be a business owner, or did that happen just by chance, or was that something that was always in the plan once you got old enough to like think about it?
Yeah, no. So it really happened in vet school, I would say, when I was deciding to pursue veterinary school and do all that. I just didn't know if I wanted to specialize. I was really interested in like large animal cardiology. Like I had a lot of interest, and so specialty was like an area I had definitely thought about pursuing, but just kind of the autonomy thing and the bureaucratic stuff of just, I really like to be able to do my own thing, I guess, and have that autonomy. I also very much like to have new ideas and be able to change things quickly and not have to work through like a whole process of approvals and that kind of thing when things are like bogged down by paperwork, I guess. And so that kind of thing changed my mind in vet school, particularly because I knew if I pursued a specialty, there would just be such a long process and it would narrow my skills into being really, really good in that one area, but I wouldn't have kind of the variety that I really craved. And so I knew I wanted to go into general practice, and then just knowing what kind of lifestyle I wanted to have and have some things under my control, I knew it was going to be practice ownership once I had made that kind of decision. But that was probably about halfway through vet school.
Almost.
That's good. It was interesting. So you graduated in
vet school in 18.
Yeah. So as we've been on the University of Missouri campus for the, BM4s graduating, the AVMA accreditation day, and we would ask how many of you want to be an owner. And at 18, out of 130 students, 120 students, 10 hands would go up. But now we're seeing a lot more. So when you decided to do that was, I think, more rare. Was that different at Kansas State? Were there more students wanted to be owners there, do you think?
There maybe was a little, but there was so many kids that wanted to specialize, like probably more than half. That was like a really, I think just financially, if you're doing small animal practice, that it makes sense. And there's so many people that just do small animal only, and there's such a small portion of us that wanted to do mixed animal, that was like the path for a lot of kids. But yeah, I don't think it was super common, but more for the mixed animal ones of us, I think practice ownership was kind of our goal.
That makes sense. There's a lot of large animal, when you mix that component in, tend to be the entrepreneurial ones. They're like, I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how did you land in Winfield? Tell us a little bit about that and the history there.
Yeah. So after vet school, I worked in another practice that was mostly cattle based. And I loved that because I got so much good experience for not growing up with cattle, even though that's something I wanted to do and wanted to pursue and wanted to have skill set in. So I looked for a primary large animal job, and I loved it and I learned a ton. But I knew I was like ready to like start looking at the practice ownership side. But my husband was also having some health issues, and I just was really craving being close to family again. I wanted to be closer to home. And so I was really kind of caught in the middle between, do we pursue like looking for a practice to buy? Or do we go back home where I know there's like a job opening? And in the back of my mind, I was hopeful that maybe some down the line that this would open up into a chance for practice ownership. And luckily that's how it worked out. But it was mostly just the desire to be close to my family again. My grandparents and parents and siblings are all in this area. And so I just called up my boss that I worked for in high school, who wrote my letter of recommendation to vet school, because I knew he had an associate job opening. And I was like, hey, here's what's going on. I want to be a business owner someday. So I don't know like long term where this might be, but I know you have an opening and I'm ready to move closer to home. So, can I come down and take a look? And it worked out great. And that's how I ended up becoming an associate at Winfield.
Awesome.
That's your thing there. Kale's talking about people should write letters to practices they want to be at. One of the episodes we talked about, like you're thinking about getting an ownership, what's a good way to do it? And so Carlee did exactly what she meant. Yeah. I was like, that's interesting.
I mean, I've had people ask me that before. It's like, hey, I don't know where to go, but I want to own my own practice. And it's like, walk through the door, just to ask. It's just, hey, I'm interested in ownership. I want to pursue this. And just no one's going to say no to that. I don't know of any owner not entertain that conversation at least. And so, I think that's awesome. So how soon, once you got there, did you, and Dr. Kip, I assume it's okay to say his name. Yeah. How soon did you guys start talking about that in a serious way? Like him phasing out, you phasing in, was that an immediate thing, or was that over time? And was that an awkward conversation, or was that just something that was kind of assumed?
Yeah. So I would say not initially was it not discussed very, very much at all. So I've been here for a little over 3 years, and now I've had the practice for about a year. So maybe a year and a half, I was just an associate. It really wasn't brought up more than it was. I was there with another third doctor. And so it was just getting acclimated, getting my small animal skills kind of honed in, because I had done so much cattle. I was really getting a chance to do a lot more small animal medicine in a much higher volume. And so I just kind of focused on that and just kind of let it ride, get familiar with the area, make sure I really wanted to be back in my hometown again long term. And then it kind of just worked out, I think, by chance. That the other veterinarian that was there, the other associate, left. That put a lot more workload on me, but also a lot more call volume and that kind of thing, just because Dr. Kip was slowing down quite a bit. And so that changed my mind as far as like my willingness to be an associate, I think, long term. And so it just became part of the conversation a little bit more naturally, like, hey, I'm still interested in ownership. Like, how are, and you'd be like, yeah, someday, or, we can talk about that later. And it wasn't ever awkward. It just wasn't like a main component of a definitive plan. And until really it just got to a place where I talked to Van, you know, my husband, about like our family goals of like being like, I really want to own a practice. Like that is where I'm at. Like I think I'm going to start looking and talking to banks or figure out how to pursue that. And so I talked to a bank actually first based off recommendation and kind of got my ducks in order, like financially, of what I knew I needed to do before I approached Dr. Kip, like officially with basically asking him to buy his practice. And so after I kind of had my ducks in order, I just came up to him one day and I said, you know, Dr. Warren, like I love working here. I love this practice. This place is like my home. I know it's your home. I want to stay in this area. This is my hometown, but I am ready to buy a practice. And that's really where Van and I want to move forward with. And we know there are practices for sale and we are willing to move for that. So if it's not an option for me to buy this one, totally understand, but I'm going to give you kind of my notice that I'm going to start looking for other practices to potentially buy. And he was like, nope, I don't want you to leave. Like very much like, let's at least talk about it and see what that would look like and get the process started. Cause I would much rather sell it to you than somebody I don't know or corporation or something like that. And so I was kind of surprised because I didn't know if he would really be ready. Or would want me to buy it, or would want a corporation to buy it, or any of that kind of thing, because we hadn't talked officially, you know, about any details. And so it just worked out. So it's like the perfect example of like, you have to ask sometimes. Like I think we're so afraid, like just you get boxed in by your own mind a lot of times. Like you just have to pursue it if you really want it.
Yeah, and you came prepared though too. It wasn't like you just came and you had done your homework and you knew kind of a framework that was going to work for you and where your goals were. And so you didn't just walk in to the conversation completely blind about it.
Yeah.
So had you already looked at, I guess in formulating that, had you already looked at some of the financials? Did you know how the practice was performing, or was that just like a starting point of the conversation? Like, hey, I want to look at some of those things.
Yeah, that was just the starting point. Yeah, we would have to go through all the financials. The bank was going to have to look at it and see if it was doable or a good idea. It wasn't like, you know, going to buy without looking at that kind of thing. But no, I had before that had not looked at anything yet. So that was just the start of getting that kind of information.
Yeah.
How old was he when you had that conversation about wanting to buy?
How old was he? About 73.
Okay. Yeah, that's an age that's generally, it should be ready.
Yeah. And I think that was like kind of my hope is I was like, I didn't know how long he wanted to work or own it, but I knew probably that I had a chance at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. I think that's, we talk about that, like, it's like a business spirit you need to have too, is intuition. And you went with that. And a lot of people that don't have that may not be, you know, ownership's going to take a little bit longer to figure out, but when you have that intuition to ask, you're not afraid to do that. That's a key thing for being successful in business is like, I'm not afraid to ask. And you're probably not afraid to tell or ask your clients what best medicine needs to be. So or your crew or anybody. I love it. I see why you enjoy working with Dr. Tucker.
I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, so, you know, I remember our first meeting very vividly, mainly for two reasons, because you were so prepared and knew answers to almost everything Kate and I asked you, but we were also sitting at a folding table in an empty room because our office wasn't done yet. And so, you know, Kate and I asked you just a lot of questions that day. I remember it very vividly. And we got to the end of the call and I always say, what more, which is like our thing to try to get people to say more. And you said, I don't know, you drilled me pretty good. And I was like, I hope it didn't feel like that. But so when we got off the call, I'm curious to ask, what was going through your head? What was your impression of us after that call? I'm just curious.
I was a little intimidated because, you know, for somebody like me that has like these big dreams, but it doesn't have the education for business, like, but I have like veterinary education, medicine education, science education, but none business, like zero, besides like self-taught books, like in reading. And so wanting to buy a practice, getting this kind of loan, trying to like analyze financials when you just don't have that knowledge is so scary. And I knew that I needed like professional help. And so when you're asking all these questions, I was like, Cal, you like, I'm trying to have like all the answers and know all this information, that kind of thing. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm glad you felt I was prepared, because I felt very unprepared. But after working together, I felt so much more confident, because I knew you guys had it handled when I didn't know. And I really needed that, and still do. I mean, it's been great working with you guys ever since. Like,
Absolutely. I got off the phone, or when you hung up, I looked at Kate and I was like, man, I really hope she signs up. You're gonna be
you sold it.
I don't know. It was super, super fun though. And it was also, your timeline was aggressive too. It wasn't like, we're doing this. It was like, hey, I want to do this by July 1. And I don't remember exactly what the date was when we talked, but it was spring. It was within 4 months, I think.
Yeah. Which, unfortunately, you guys were in on the secret of me being pregnant. And so the timeline crunch that I personally felt, the stress that I was dealing with, because basically after I told Dr. Warren this and got this ball rolling and had the bank involved and had, all of these things, I found I was pregnant. And so just like that extra surprise of like, do I keep pursuing this, like through this, or do I put everything on hold and then like revisit this later? And I was like, no, like this is the time, like I can handle it. We can do it. Like, let's just go. And so there was also that of like, yeah, like as fast as possible would be helpful.
And see, you never told us that until like the day you closed, maybe, or like 2 days after you closed, you called us and we're like, hey, by the way, I've been keeping something which is like, wasn't like I was going to tell you not to buy the practice.
I know.
Was that what you did?
You just worry, like, I don't know. Yeah, you shouldn't, but there is a worry, like if financially you cannot perform where you need to be because of pregnancy, maternity leave, those kind of things. Like, is that going to limit my ability to get a loan to secure like the funding and things that I need? That was a very big worry on my end. And I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I knew I could pull it off, but I didn't know if anyone else would believe in me as much as I did. So it was just something that I didn't feel comfortable with sharing until I was like, felt like it was pretty locked down.
You didn't have enough information. And unfortunately, you never know. Somebody, a banker or someone can be like, oh, you got a baby on the way. I don't know if I want to lend you this money to do that. So, which shouldn't have to be a worry. It should not have to be a worry, because having a baby, having a biz, all those things, should be able to do all those things without any fear. So, no, I think you probably took the right approach on that for sure. Yeah. But I do remember when they're like, oh, by the way, like,
surprise!
They came down like after the meeting there. We're like,
no wonder she's been trying to move this along as quickly as possible. I'm like, are you sure you just don't want to do this like September and make everything way easier? And you're like, no, July's great. It was fun.
If I would have explained it would have been easier, because then I almost waited too long that it was so uncomfortable to tell you guys. I was like, I should have just told you a long time ago. We would like, you're gonna know now.
It's been on your side though. Like we would have like, all right, let's get this done. Is June 1 better? Like, let's do it. But
yeah, I should have probably told you guys, but
makes for a good story. It's a much better story. Yeah. So 2023 was a good year for you and Van.
Yeah, it really was a good year. And yeah, a baby and a business all very quickly is a big, bite off the elephant, as they say. But yeah, it was awesome. It was an awesome year. And truly, like, both were huge blessings. And owning the practice while having a baby was extremely hard, but provided me as much more time with like my family than I would have had otherwise. So I really probably couldn't have done anything that I had done and wanted to do without being an owner.
That's awesome. Which is great. And so I guess talk a little bit about, so you transitioned from an associate to an owner to a mom in the span of 6 months. So what was different after owning the business? What did you do as an associate that completely changed as an owner, as far as, and you can take it from many different directions, as far as culture, all these people, your colleagues, and now they're your employees. And how was that transition? Because that's sometimes an awkward situation to have happen. So talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I tried to very much, when I came on as an associate, to be willing to mentor other staff and like the technicians in a couple different ways, but just like trying to create a positive culture, because I knew that just only benefits everyone. But also like having trained staff very much benefits my job as a vet. And so when the girls were going through their schooling or online programs or things like that that needed help with videos or technical skills, I tried to spend a lot of time investing in that because I knew that would pay off long term. And so I feel like I had a very good relationship with a lot of the staff, that they knew I was putting in extra effort in order to help teach them or make things better for their work life too. So that was an easier transition than I think it could have been had you come into a practice and don't have those relationships already built. And the entire staff has been extremely respectful and kind. It's never been a hard transition going from associate to their boss. I feel like they always have been on my side, and we work very well as a team unit together, because that was like a big priority for me. I wanted that to be the case. We're friends, but we're coworkers, and I feel like that, like, we are really good as a team, more than just like friends outside of work. And so that was better than anticipated. I think the thing that I mostly just wanted to change was just like updating things, more having the technicians focus more on technical tasks that they can, like delegating, being able to see more things at once. Just efficiencies is where I really wanted to focus, because my workload was increasing. My stress was increasing. I was pregnant, going to have a baby, trying to manage a business, all of these things. And I was like, I have so much more to get done. Everything has to be delegated down. If someone else can do it, basically I needed them to do it and not me, just because I was getting extremely overwhelmed with just the different kinds of work to be done. But I think just having a positive work culture, work environment, and investing in your staff in a positive way it was my goal, was what I wanted, and I think really will pay off long term. That was like the main thing I wanted to change, was very much like that buying the clinic wasn't just to benefit me, it was to benefit everyone.
That's a perfect way to enter it, because if it's just for you, you shouldn't be in business just for you. You should be in business for a bigger purpose, and that impact on people is a big deal. So I think that it's always interesting, of course, with veterinary position, being a doctor, that already carries a level of respect with it too. So I think that helps you with that transition of, you're already in a position of power, if you will, right? Because they're already looking up to you. They're not, so you had that going that direction, and then you going, well, I want more for everyone. That's just an added bonus. That's going to go, wow, let's make it even better. So, congratulations. That's a great approach you took on that, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think it made the difference when doing that transition. Just having everybody invested in like that this is work, this is change, we know this is chaos, or whatever was happening, because we changed so many things, and new software systems and the phones and the internet, like everything was just so hard so many times, and where staff could have gotten so negative and so burned out and just been tired of it, they stayed positive because they knew that it was going to be worth it for them too.
Awesome.
I was going to throw that in there. I said, don't forget about the software change in the middle of that as well.
Why did I do this?
Oh, software change.
That happened in September, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was September was new software. So that
might be harder than buying a business, the software change.
It was really challenging. Thankfully, just working with younger staff members in general, you have like very tech savvy people, I guess, because I still do not understand a lot of the software, and some of these girls come in and just fix it all. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're great with computers, because I have no idea how any of it works, but it could have been worse, but it was not easy.
Yeah. I think that's part of being a business owner too, is the understanding and being okay with not knowing everything, like not knowing the answer to everything, being okay with that's that person's thing. Let's just let them go, let them go and run with it. And because if you look at any successful business, that's what they've been successful at doing, is just letting someone run with it. And maybe it's not the way you were gonna do it or the way you thought it should be done, but did it get done that way, or did it get done in a way that works? And if so, great.
And that's definitely like the autonomy I was talking about. Like, people, I feel like, have like true niches. Like, they're good and skilled at the things that they're passionate about, or the things that they're just naturally good at, and letting people run with it and not micromanage and let them take on a task. If they can put their own personal touch in it, a lot of times they can come up with solutions you never would have thought of, but also just like the time saving because they're focused on it and you're not, trying to do it all. So, yeah.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And you talk about not doing it for you. It's for everybody. You also have a practice that has quite a bit of history with it too, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And so you want to talk about the legacy that you might have purchased as well?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I brought the practice from Dr. Warren. The practice was originally his dad's, basically. His dad was, when he was younger, was, I think, going to go to college for like engineering or something, the sciences at like KU. And then Pearl Harbor happened and he enlisted for World War II and was a fighter pilot. He actually got shot down and was a prisoner of war for 8 months. They found him because German Shepherds were like sent over the hill, and that's how they discovered him, captured him. So he always hated working on German Shepherds. Interesting enough. But after the war ended, he went to veterinary school, and after that he moved to Winfield and essentially kind of started this practice by buying it from a man named Dr. Allison. And they agreed just on a straight, simple handshake that he was going to take over the practice from Dr. Allison in 1951. And they kind of split it half and half for a little bit there, where Dr. Allison worked and made his money and older Dr. Warren worked and made his money. And so that was, over 70 years ago that this practice has been part of Winfield, and people know who this family is. And he had a wife and had Dr. Kip and raised him as part of the, the veterinary practice, where Dr. Kip grew up only knowing his dad being a vet and doing veterinary medicine, and inspired him to be a vet as well. And he went to K-State and came back and joined his dad. And this is like the third location that they've been in. But everyone, like so many clients that I see, always talk about Dr. Warren or old Dr. Warren and the stories that they've had driving like a Buick around and having everybody's keys to their pasture to go fishing or hunting. And he would literally pull a chute with a Buick, like going like 90 miles an hour over hills and into pastures, and back up the chute with his car and work a bunch of calves and that kind of thing. So people just have so many stories, and it's a really neat legacy to kind of like take over. But it's really important to me because it is a place that, I always wanted to be a vet, but didn't know any veterinarians, never had any cattle experience or anything. And so getting to work there in high school and have somebody mentor me to write me a letter to go to vet school and that kind of thing, just kind of tied it all full circle, that it's, a really special place for the community, but also personally too.
Yeah. And what a phenomenal, I didn't know about the World War II part. Yeah. That is a phenomenal story. So
yeah, it's really neat.
A lot of trust Dr. Kip put in you too, to say, yeah, go for it. I mean, that's pretty special.
Yeah, it does really mean a lot.
So my grandpa flew in World War II. He's a fighter pilot also. I'd be curious. I mean, a lot of fighter pilots, but I'd be curious to see if ended up like, I'm sure he's going out to England, just like my grandpa was, flying, escorting bombers and all that kind of stuff. My grandpa's got there's a historical picture. He ripped his wing off chasing a Messerschmitt through the tree line, and got the plane back with half a wing.
Oh my gosh!
Because he didn't want to be captured, obviously, even though he was supposed to like ditch the plane, but he was stubborn and was able to get it back. So that's pretty wild. I bet they're we'll talk.
So many interesting stories from history, that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to preserve those and to know that legacy and keep that going that's important. So is there anything like I guess I look online, right? It's like the history of the practice, all that kind of stuff. Was that part of it? Like online, do you use that story?
So I should add more, but on our website we have a little blurb about him buying it from Dr. Allison with a simple handshake and that kind of thing. But I really should update it to include all that. We have a small museum in town, and we really want to make like a display to honor him, because we have a lot of we have his like old bandage boxes and like the glass needles, and we have so many cool like old veterinary things. But then obviously Dr. Kip has some of his stuff from World War II as well. And so it would be really nice to preserve that in the local museum, and that's a goal as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to get to take over something with that level of history and to take it to whatever the next generation of it's going to be. And I was looking at the notes from our first call that we ever had together, and you said, I want to make this a Google-like work environment. And
yes.
So what is, you can elaborate on that, and maybe that's changed after being an owner for a year, but elaborate on what your vision is for the practice. What exactly, like when you're at a position where, hey, maybe I'm going to hand this down to the next person, what's happened in that span of time?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember saying that, and that's still very much how I feel. I just remember like being a kid and like middle school or high school, like working for Google was like the coolest thing you could do. Like everyone just said like they have the best work environment, and I don't know, they have like bouncy balls to sit on and they have coffee. I don't know, even if it's true, but it just kind of inspired me to like have a great place to be at work. And I think being an associate and realizing how much of your day is at work, and just like if you don't like your job, you don't like most of your day. And life is too short, you never know what's going to happen. Like family is super important, but if you're going to just commit this many hours of your life to something, it should be enjoyable. And it shouldn't just be enjoyable for like the top person. It should be enjoyable for everybody, hopefully. Because I think that one pays off in the long run, but if the environment is good and all of the staff are happy, then that's really what my goal was. And so I mostly wanted it to be just a place where people show up to work, are happy to be there, can put in a good day's worth of work and feel successful at the end of the day, know that they made a difference, and still get to go home and enjoy their lives without taking a bunch of baggage home with them that brings negativity to your home life. Because I've definitely been in instances like that. And it runs so many things. And so I wanted staff retention to be a big focus. I wanted like veterinary retention to be a big goal. But like work-life balance, benefits, but ideally, when it came down to it, I didn't want to squeeze every dollar out of the business if it took away from like happiness, I guess, like having joy in your day and feeling like that you made a difference was worth more than like the dollars at the end of the day. And that included the staff too, not just me. Because when you're working with 20 people, 15 to 20 people, a couple bad apples or a couple people that are really negative bring everything down in like a big snowball effect. And you can't keep everyone happy all the time, and it's not going to be perfect. It's still work. So there's like a realism aspect there. But I also just think like you just spend too much of your day at work to be a place you don't want to be at.
Yeah. I think that what you're saying is what a lot of people talk about, is putting your people before profit.
Yeah.
And not, we need to make a profit, right? We should.
Yeah.
But if you put your people first, the profit tends to follow, because they're taking great care of your clients coming through the door, with the animals or on the farm, wherever that is, that it just translates and makes a difference. Yeah. And I think you'll see it with the new doctors coming on, those kinds of things that are happening, that it helps at. It helps when you hire, because when you do have people that transition to other things, they're like someone's knocking at your door, like a Google. I think that's probably what you're trying to shoot for, is now that you have bouncy balls you're sitting on. What you're shooting for is that someone says, I want to work at Winfield.
Yeah.
You want people like saying, do you have a job available? Well, not right now, but we'll let you know when we do. People are waiting for a job to open up. So it sounds like you've done that, and that is continued work. for sure. But it's, I was walking down our stairs the other day and because I was sick last week and 100-degree fever, and you get down on yourself, right? Like, it's sick, and guys are the worst when it comes to being sick. But like coming down the stairs here between our offices up and down, I was like, this is pretty cool. I just had that go through my head, like, place we work at, the people that are here, this is special. And so to be treated like such. So no, I think that I would correlate your Google thought to, I want my veterinary practice to be the place people are asking to work at.
Yeah. And that's really my goal is I want to, like, if there's an opening to find like the best candidate, somebody who you want to be able to find the best of the best, and you have to offer something for that in return. And I think like turnover is a huge problem in the veterinary field, and negativity and burnout, all of those things. It just, especially I think a lot of medical fields, but we know how that is with veterinary shortages and that kind of stuff, that it's really difficult for a lot of people. And if you want to spend all your time training new people all the time and have people that don't have a lot of skill set, and you're always having to teach them new things and you can't trust them to leave them alone, I just think that's eating up a ton of resources, that if you keep good, well-trained, great employees here and happy long term, I think financially is going to pay off. But initially it may cost a little bit up front. But a lot of times it's nothing like that extravagant. I think people think of their employees a lot of times as like such an expense, and it's like they're such an asset. And I just feel like people need to realize that a little bit more. And like I said, I've only been doing this a year, so I don't know everything, by any means, but I really feel like people are more of an asset than sometimes people give them credit for.
It's your best asset. You can't get an advantage of the equipment you buy. You can't get an advantage of the product you buy, because you need that product, you need that equipment to run your business.
And everybody else can also buy the same stuff.
Everybody buy the same stuff. And so what you need, though, are the people. That's who makes a difference. No question about it in business. So, you mentioned earlier about, I've got, as a veterinarian, having this veterinary knowledge and this business knowledge, I think first of all, there's no way you're going to be trained for a business degree. You just cannot. You're not going to be a veterinarian and have there are some people that do, but really you need to be concentrating on animal medicine, on that side. Yeah. But on the business side, what I think people need to understand is that it's not that you have to understand how to interpret all the numbers and all those kinds of things, because you already have that people sense. And at the end of the day, what really makes good business ownership is a good people sense. And so if you're able to put that together, all you have to do is get the people around you to support you on, all right, are these numbers, with DVM office, are these numbers telling what story are they telling? Because it's, we compare that to the blood, machine. You can get your report out of there, and if you gave it to Kale and I, I'd be like, sweet, this says 40, this says 50, this says, like, yeah, okay, tell me what the hell it means.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to just kind of dovetail back to that, because we hear that out of a lot of veterinary business owners, like, I don't know business. But don't discount yourself. People, you wouldn't be a business owner if you didn't know that part. Yeah, maybe the numbers, those things. I see the financial numbers the way you see the blood report.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That does actually make me feel quite a bit better.
You got it.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. Surrounding yourself with people that can fill, and also just fill the gaps that you personally might have, makes a big difference too. So
recognizing that, not having ego and pride to be like, I don't have to be the one that did it. That's the problem when people get in trouble. Like, no, I better be the one that said that was mine. And like, I don't care whose it was. I'm actually glad if it's someone else's that did it, because they're gonna be successful. The business is gonna be successful. That's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So
you picked a good person to have on here, and I'm glad you're on. This has been a great.
I told you it was going to be good. So, was there anything that you were worried about throughout the process of considering being an owner, that once you were an owner, just totally wasn't a big deal at all?
I think it comes kind of what we were just talking about, like that self-doubt of like, can I really do this? Do I have the knowledge to do this? Like, I think a big thing is taking on, like, you're paying payroll for it felt like a lot of people, to me. And like, I'm responsible for their livelihoods currently right now. And that was like a huge stress that just kept me up at night. But truly simplistically, when you have like people like yourself in DVM office and that kind of thing on your team, it's not as complicated as I thought. There's so much little stuff that's hard, but in general, you're paying bills, you payroll, you buy supplies, and then you practice medicine. It's not as overwhelming as I thought it was at first. Like, it's doable. I think people get really scared about practice ownership because it's just like, how do you do it? Like, what are the steps? How do you even get started? And that's complicated a little bit, working with the bank, but like working with you guys to help with that transition made it so much easier. That's how I would recommend anybody would do it. Be having, you guys help them, because it made that so much more smooth. But truly, once you kind of get the ball rolling, there's lots of things to fix and manage and change all the time, but it's very much like people things or little decisions here and there. But it's kind of like running a household. You pay your bills, you order the stuff you need, and you take care of the things that need to get done. And it's not that complicated. You can do it. So hopefully somebody like sees that, if you're afraid to do it, that if they watch this episode, that they can realize that part is not actually truly too hard. Like, you can do it if that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. We love the opportunity to be along for that ride, because our clients generally know what to do. They just need just a little bit of help, and to keep things rolling and have someone to call, right? Be like, am I thinking right about this? It's
to back up.
Yeah.
I find myself still wanting to do that all the time. It's like I do this with all kinds of people, but I still want someone else to validate my thought.
Yeah.
In my personal life or other things. It's like, does that make any sense at all? and it's kind of interesting, because people ask me that question. And, right. Yeah, it makes sense. Great. Dude. Right. I know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But you still want somebody to tell you, yeah, that makes sense. Go do it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Helps with that confidence, helps with that kind of, it's a little bit of that imposter syndrome for, you might have had that as a veterinarian when you first got out. And, can I operate in this animal? Should I be, I got a life in my hands here. And I'm sure that doesn't ever completely go away, but it's like, you get to I can. I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, as we kind of start to wrap up here, is there any case that you had that was super funny, crazy, wild, memorable, like one that stands out above all the rest?
Yes, I have one, and I knew you might ask, so it was very easy to pick. This is the wildest one, hopefully ever. But yes, I would love to share it with you guys, because you will not believe it.
You just yourself. You just said the whole ever.
I know. That's true. Bring it on. If it's weirder than this, I'll take it. Like, I love these kind of things. I have a list on my phone of all the weird cases in case someday I want to write a book, but this one tops them all. So I had a dog come in as an emergency during the daytime, because it was in a vehicle accident with the owner, and the dog was very painful, was paralyzed, and basically had a back lesion that needed like medical management to try to see if we could get him recovering, get some like spinal cord swelling down, and see if we could get some like motor back to his hind limbs. So we basically put him on like supportive treatment, pain control, and then like steroids to decrease the swelling of like the nerves affected. And he was with us for a while, maybe like a week or something like that. But otherwise, very, very normal standard, treatment. He started walking. He did great. He still had like a limp a little bit. He kind of dragged one of his toes, but got to go home and did quite well until it was time for like a recheck. Like maybe 3 weeks later, he had like this knot on his side that was swollen up, and his like demeanor had changed at home like significantly. He was becoming extremely aggressive, was just growling and snapping and acted like he was just feeling terrible. And we were like, man, I don't know if it's just residual neuropathy or something from the accident. Is he so painful? I think we had called and like tried to tweak some meds at home, and it just wasn't working, to the point like his quality of life was like significantly like not doing well. And so we really didn't know what to do, but we had him finally back in for that recheck, and the swelling just was odd. It was just like a little lump kind of on his side, maybe, I don't know, the size of like my mouse. So we did some diagnostics. I think I ultrasounded the area to see if maybe it was like an abscess or something. And I ended up like having to put a needle in it to see what kind of fluid was in it. And it was an abscess. So we're like, okay, maybe he got poked by something in the accident and maybe the swelling is just uncomfortable. So we sedated him. I like lanced the abscess open, flushed it, drained it, and then like flushed it out with some like diluted iodine to kind of get the residual amount that I couldn't like get way down deep. Woke him up, recovered him, and then he was dirty. So we were going to have our kennel girl bathe him before he went home because he had some of that like pussy material like down his side, and we didn't want to send him home dirty. So we were getting meds ready, and she has him in the bathtub, and he like shakes, you know, like how dogs do after a bath, and a shish kebab stick flies out of that hole. This long.
Oh my God.
Like 7 inches. A whole shish kebab stick. We all sat there for probably 15 minutes in complete silence, staring at this dog with the stick sticking out like this far. Like I'm thinking is Steve Irwin and being like, do I pull the stick out or do I leave it? Because I have to do it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Where is this stick from? So we remove the stick. The dog's completely fine. And then we see how long it is, and we're just completely silent. We're like, what is going on? Like, I thought I was in the Matrix. Like, my brain was glitching so hard, being like, this makes no sense.
Wooden shish kebab stick.
A whole wooden shish kebab stick.
How does that happen?
How does that happen? So we're like dumbfounded. We don't know what to do with ourselves. And we're like, okay, well, I guess that's why he was so painful. Problem solved. It's out. He seems okay. And so we x-rayed him, and there was nothing else in there. But where we kind of figured it out after calling the owners, they were like, oh my gosh, we know exactly what happened. 2 weeks ago, we were trying to get him the chicken from some Chinese food, and he just took the whole stick. And we thought he chewed it up.
Ugh.
So he had swallowed like the chicken on a shish kebab stick whole 2 weeks ago, and it had been bouncing around in his stomach and worked its way up. Like a healer.
Okay.
Yeah.
40, 50 pounds.
Not big, not small. Yeah.
Yeah. And it worked its way up and formed this little abscess. And all the flushing and lancing and anything I had done with the abscess never revealed the stick until he just shook just right and it popped through the hole that I had created.
What did the person bathing the dog, when they came and got you, what did they say? Like, what was their...
They're just yelling. They're like, there's a stick! Get Carlee! We don't know what it is! And then when I'm like finally deciding to be brave and pull it out, I'm like, well, we have to pull it out. I don't know what else to do. And then pull it out, and it's just longer, and it had a little pointed in and a flat blunted in.
So it never broke one time.
It's amazing.
Nope.
It was whole.
Nope. It was completely whole.
That's painful. And it didn't
For 2 weeks.
It didn't puncture like any intestines or anything that would have leaked out and caused any major sepsis either, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what was the biggest concern. But I think because it had stayed in the stomach and had worked its way just straight out, it didn't hit anything major. Like, it avoided the kidneys or anything.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it could have went through a bunch of stuff, but it didn't. And because it was in the stomach and not the small intestines, there's enough acid there that a lot of times there's not much bacteria. So
it was good.
Versus like if it was in the colon, it would have been a lot worse.
It's amazing what a dog can swallow. I mean, that's like, it didn't like, we just thought it chewed it up.
We just thought it would chew it up, or went and hit it somewhere else after it got the chicken off.
Oh, I know if that would have happened.
All the questions I asked. Yeah, all the questions I asked, like about this lump, about any changes, anything. No. And then as soon as they have the stick, they're like, oh, we know exactly what that's from.
You have like pet nicknames on your charts?
I do not. I should.
I have to say, I wasn't expecting that. That's a level of
Me neither.
Corey. That's phenomenal.
No, I mean, like,
So
we're
much
here,
better than what I was expecting.
hearing this, this accident, kind of his nerves and all. Like, okay, okay. I'm waiting for this abs. Yeah, like, okay, something got affected at post surgery, cleaning it all up, and I'm waiting for like a Hot Wheel to pop out or something.
I didn't know.
Nothing pops out yet, right? Oh my God, that's a good one. I don't.
Great.
Yeah, that amazed me too. Like, as a pet owner, you're like, you can't take that for granted. Just chewed it up. It's like, no, then it would be worse. It's like, it's got a pet. Like, you better go see somebody if they have if it's called a shish kebab, even they chewed it up. Like,
You should call us. Please call us.
Or just give us some indication that maybe we, look further for the stick, or that it might be in there. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I appreciate you sharing that. That might be. That's a full chapter right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open with
Yeah.
that.
And my brain was just so confused. I should have called them right away, but I spent like 30 minutes trying to figure out how this happened. And I was like, did he get impaled in his car accident with the shish? I was like, no, he didn't have any wounds. Like, my mind was so confused. So I called, and then they were like, yeah.
That's phenomenal.
As tough as the dog's skin, I would think it'd be hard to poke a shish kebab stick into a dog anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. My brain was going crazy. I had no idea.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Good job.
I love my job. I really do.
You gotta let the dog shake. You have an abscess, you just never know.
Yeah. Let him work it.
Shake. And
you can't say there's nothing in there if you can miss the second.
Would the wood not pick up, like, ultrasound wise, or you ultrasound the area like it wasn't like?
Because I think it was longitudinal. No, I couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's like a dot, like, because you're looking down. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. That's phenomenal.
I know. It was insane.
How do you charge for that? Stick.
Not enough, let me tell you.
Stick removal.
It's a free bath too, man.
Free bath and shish kebab stick removal today.
So is moving on from that one. I have a couple final questions, and I ask every vet that we interview the same question, and so far everyone said yes. Have you been accused at somebody reacting to their bill being higher than what they wanted it to be? Have you been accused of trying to afford your boat payment?
They have not said boat or car, although Dr. Kip got that one a lot.
That's fine.
Mostly because what I drive, probably. But they have made many comments about being greedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just asked the question because it seems like, I bet you will. When you do, would you text me, please? Because at some point, almost all of our veterinarians have had somebody say, I'm just making your boat payment for them. And they're like, I don't have a boat. Not one of them has owned a boat. Yeah. So it's kind of a funny correlation. So anyway, when you do, let me know.
I will. And so it's coming, I'm sure.
What are you most proud of? You're approaching once this airs, you will have owned the practice for 1 year. So what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of creating a work environment that's positive, and making it something where I feel like we're truly making a difference for our staff, for the vets that we have hired, and for like our community, just providing really high quality, kind customer service that that benefits my local hometown where I grew up. But it's really, I think I'm most proud of just like the kind of culture that we've built at work, that I'm not contributing to the burnout that I know like plagues our profession and that kind of thing, that I'm trying to make a difference there, because that's really where my passion lies. So hopefully I can continue to do that. I really feel like I have so far, and it's not perfect. There's lots of things that I'll have to work on, I'm sure, the rest of my life, but I like that I can make a difference there.
Remember, it's called you're practicing.
Yeah, Yeah. It's definitely a lot of practice.
Pursuit of perfection through the practice.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. You guys covered it pretty good.
Good. I hope it didn't feel like
You
we
grilled me again.
yeah, I hope it didn't feel like that again.
And
We've known each other for a while, but man, what a first 12 months of ownership. Bye, practice.
right. It's been a wild ride.
Brand new software. Hired 2 new associate veterinarians. What more? I'm sure I'm missing a multitude of things in that, but
That's plenty.
what
It's enough for a
phenomenal
year.
That's awesome. I'd love to see the passion you have, the excitement you have, and really it doing this podcast shows how possible it is for, like I said, you got the Not One More Vet, that organization out there. When you have an organization out there like that, it's like, holy cow. There's been a problem out there, but I think a lot of the problem is what is the advocacy for your industry, meaning that when someone comes in and complains about the price of the bill, it's the service. It's like, go take that to the human doctor. Number one, you wouldn't have gotten blood results today, an X-ray result today, all these things, and plus you're getting it for the 20th of the price. So when we say advocacy, it's really you all are busy, and it's like I joke about, the human doctor's got like, what's that, McSteamy, what's that, or ER, the George Clooney, all these sexy doctors, and you got Dr.
Yeah. I know. They're always trying to do more with less.
Yeah. So you're sharing your story is not only just for, the veterinary community itself. It's really for people to understand what happens in, veterinary practice, and that, the service you provide for the cost is really, reasonable. There's no question about what you do, your training, you involved, be where you're at, the risk you take, owning your own business, all those things. So, communicating that message is a big deal. So,
yeah, absolutely. And truly, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, yeah, absolutely.
I also want to say, and I'm sure if anybody listening to this is wanting to own their practice, isn't quite sure what to do or where to start, I'm sure you'd be happy if they reached out to you and discussion.
Absolutely.
I know. I mean, you're one of those people that wants to give back to the community as a whole, and whether that's Winfield or that's the veterinary community as a whole. I know you want to leave your lasting mark on that too. And so, I think Carlee would be there's no one better to tell a story about buying a practice than Carlee, I think. So,
and a great story. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for rescheduling too. That was
absolutely
sick story. Yeah, that I said that. No, looking back on actually, I was Kale. I go, we can still do it. I can do it from home. And he's listening. He goes, no, we're rescheduling. I was like, Steven.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, thank you so much for being on today. And I can't wait to see what year 2 looks like.
Absolutely.
I know. Hopefully going up from here.
Only going up from there. So
wonderful. Well, remember to like and subscribe to this stuff, right?
Yeah, give us your spiel, whatever.
We're so bad about this, like people are like, like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1 million views. Some point, 1 million views, right? We're trying to get to 1,000 views. But no, we're like and subscribe out there. We're on all the streaming services, all the stuff that's out there. You can find us at vetipodcast.com is our website. Check us out there. And we're always looking for, hey, if people have suggestions about what they want to hear about in the veterinary community, that are in the veterinary community or not, you can email us. We're on social media. You can message us, all those things. We want to make this part of a community that people have input and advocate for the success, and make sure the veterinary community has a vibrant future. So thanks so much for tuning in today, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Peace and blessings.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.